Hello everyone, and sorry about no videos for the past few days. I've been enjoying some vacation time with the family, but now it's time to continue, and we're starting it off with Alireza versus Hikaru from the Grandchester St. Louis Rapid Tournament. We're also going to show his game against Nodar Abdusattorov, and also a glimpse of a game that he played against Hikaru in Blitz, as Alireza is the 2024 St. Louis Rapid and Blitz champion, winning it back-to-back like he did in 2022, and he is now going into the Singfield Cup as the leader of the Grand Chess Tour. So we're starting off with these two. If you guys have any others that I've missed over the past few days, do use hashtag suggestion and I will gladly go over them. Now let's check it out. Alireza faces Hikaru here. He has white and he opens with e4. We have pawn to e6. Hikaru counters. Sorry, that's different game. Yeah, this is the one. e4. And Hikaru counters with e6. He goes for the French defense with d4, d5, and pawn to e5. Alireza goes for the advanced variation. We have pawn to c5 and pawn to c3. There's even an interview by Christian Cyrilla and Rex Singfield with Alireza after winning the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz tournament. After the interview, Rex invites Alireza basically to the United States and into the St. Louis chess club. He told him that if he ever decides to move to the United States, that he is more than welcome here, as he did so well in the event. So c3, knight to c6, we have knight to f3 and queen to b6, countering the Paulsen attack with pressure on the center. Pawn to a3, the main line of the Paulsen, and now knight to h6. c4 is by far the most common. Knight h6, the second top idea. b4 is how knight h6 is usually challenged. Here we have bishop to d3, and now c captures on d4. And Alireza tries to be a little bit tricky. Usually you capture, Alireza castles kingside. We have bishop to d7, and now pawn to b4. We have rook to c8 by Hikaru, and now there are some games where h3 was played. Also bishop to b2 is a known move, but Alireza plays pawn to b5, and it is now as of move 10 that we have a completely new game. Okay, Hikaru goes knight to e7, knight to a5, also a very nice square, but he goes for knight to e7, puts pressure on that b5 pawn, and now knight captures on d4, nicely defending the pawn on b5. Knight e to f5, and now pawn to a4, as Hikaru was getting ready to eliminate one of the defenders of the b5 pawn. So knight captures on d4, we have pawn to a5. First, kicking away the queen, not allowing queen to recapture on d4, but now we have queen to c5 and bishop to a3, attacking the queen. Knight to e2 check, you have to give the piece back somehow. This is the best way to do it. Queen captures on e2, and now queen to c7, and now just bishop back to b2, not allowing bishop captures on f8, and then well, just king captures. Then the dark squares will not be as weak. You can play g6, king g7, get the rook into the game, and Hikaru will be able to castle artificially. We have bishop to e7, knight to d2, and now castles kingside, and Alireza strikes with pawn to c4. So he gets rid of one pawn from the dark square diagonal, and now only one remains. If he gets rid of the e5 pawn somehow and the bishop comes alive, then this mighty bishop pair will definitely be something for Hikaru to worry about. We have d captures on c4, bishop captures, and rook f to d8. We have rook f to c1, nicely aligning the rook with the black queen. Queen to b8, and now knight to f3. Also interesting here would be pawn to g4, just stopping that knight on h6, and well, it's as if Hikaru would be maybe not down a piece. Maybe you can play some king h8 at some point, and the knight comes to g8, but I mean the knight cannot really move from g8 either. So it would be interesting. But okay, this is a rapid game, little time on the clock. We have knight to f3, and now knight to f5. Hikaru immediately takes this opportunity to get the knight into the game. We have bishop back to d3 and bishop to f8. g6 would have been better after bishop to f8. Now Alireza can actually win the game, but he misses the idea. He plays pawn to h4. The real move here is pawn to g4, and it sounds, it looks pretty self-explanatory. You just kick away the knight. Well, the idea is that, again, if knight h6, h3, and the knight is out of the game, and if you go knight to e7, then, of course, the idea is bishop captures on h7 check. That's the key move. King captures, now you're going to play knight to g5 check, and if the king, let's say, goes back, queen to f3, and there is very little black can do here. But okay, pawn to h4, we have bishop to e8, now strengthening the f7 pawn, and the bishop captures on f5. We have e captures, pawn to e6, the dark square bishop is now free. Rook captures on c1, we have rook captures, and now queen to d6, going after the e6 pawn, knight to g5 defending and attacking on f7, and f captures on e6. We have queen captures on e6 check, queen captures, and knight captures. So while the line that we've just discussed would be winning for Alireza right away, here the position is still very much a draw. We have rook to d2 by Hikaru going after the bishop, bishop to d4, and now bishop to d7. Pressuring the knight on e6, we have bishop to e3, attacking the rook, rook to d3, and now knight captures on f8. King captures and pawn to a6, and again, the position gets very, very interesting here. So what's the idea here? The idea is that you cannot... or rather, you have to capture on a6. You can't really capture on b5 because a captures on b7 and then you cannot stop promotion. But after b captures on a6, everything is perfectly fine. For example, captures, and now you go bishop to b5. You pressure a6, then rook to a1, and the game continues. But here Hikaru played pawn to b6 and he runs into a lot of trouble. Of course, you don't have to guess Alireza's next move. The rook becomes a pig, rook to c7, bishop captures on b5, and rook captures on a7. We have rook to a3, now preparing to capture on a6, but now rook to a8 with check. This is key, getting your pawn to a dark square. We have king to f7, pawn to a7, and now rook to a6. Defending the b6 pawn, but not really. Alireza just captures it. Bishop captures on b6. Point being, of course, that if the bishop is captured, just rook b8, and you will have to give up the rook. And then rook versus bishop, 3 pawns each. Of course, the position is completely winning for Alireza. So after rook to c8, rook captures on b6 was played, and now the position is completely winning, but you have to... you have to find the precise idea. I'm sure you guys see it, so we're not gonna make this the pause the video moment. The precise idea is rook to c7 with check. I'm only kidding. This was a very, very hard move to make, and Alireza missed it. Alireza played rook captures on c6 right away, which is very nice, but you still have to continue playing. The point is that after rook to c7 check, well, if you go here, then you just capture the bishop with check, king moves, rook moves, and you promote the pawn to a queen. And if you go king to e8, then you capture on c6, but now the king is on the back rank. For example, rook to b1 check, king h2, you put a rook behind the passed pawn. Doesn't matter. Rook c8 check, king attacks, and you bring a queen into the game. And that's it. Black has to give up the rook, and you're winning easily. But Alireza missed this in between. A very nice Zwischenzug. He played rook captures on c6 right away, and now Hikaru doesn't have to capture. He plays rook to b1 check, king h2, and now, of course, rook to a1. We have rook to c7 with check, king to f6, and now king to g3. So it's still a very nice position for Alireza. He's up a pawn in a rook endgame, but he still has to work very hard for his meal. Rook to a4, we have king to f3 and pawn to f4. We have king to e2 and pawn to h5. King to d3, we have pawn to g5, captures with the king, and now king to c3. We have pawn to h4, king to b3, attacking the rook, and rook to a1. Pawn to f3, cutting off the king completely out of the game, and now pawn to h3. The problem is you could wait and see what happens if you don't advance the pawn, but the king will just go up the board, block the black rook with something like rook to b7, and promote this pawn into a queen. So you have to try something active. h3, g captures, king h4, we have rook to g7, and king captures on h3. King to b4, rook to a2, and king to b5, and he was in this position on move 54 that Hikaru Nakamura resigned the game. As there is nothing more to be done here. Like I said, probably something like rook b2 check, king goes up the board, you continue checking, and now after one less check check is given, rook to b7 blocks the rook. And then, okay, you bring a queen into the game, you win the rook. And if black could win the f3 pawn, it would still be a draw, but you can easily defend rook b3, and that's all there is. So, of course, it's pointless for Hikaru to continue. He knows this, and, of course, he resigns the game. And it's very interesting what happened in the Blitz section. I'm just going to briefly show you what went down in the Blitz section. So this is a position from the Blitz section. Hikaru just played pawn to b3, and the position is still very much a draw. But Alireza played queen c4, and Hikaru played pawn to b2. And Hikaru's position is now winning, or maybe even close to winning. Alireza played rook to b1, and now Hikaru has to play rook a to c8. But he played rook f to c8, and he completely left the f7 pawn hanging. Alireza captures it, and Hikaru resigned, because if he moves the king, then of course just queen captures, and g7 is checkmate. So not the best for Hikaru, blundering a mate in 2 like this, but I mean, yeah, you play how many 27 games across the rapid and blitz section. Yeah, I mean, it's possible for something like this to happen. And also, I wanted to show you Alireza's game against Nodirbek, really also a nice one, e4, and while Hikaru countered with e6, the French Nodirbek replies with pawn to c5. He goes for the Sicilian defense. Knight f3, we have pawn to d6 and pawn to d4. And also there will be a very nice pause the video moment here. C captures, knight captures, and now knight to f6. We have knight to c3 and pawn to a6, the Najdorf variation of the Sicilian. We have bishop to g5, and now pawn to e6. We have pawn to f4 and pawn to h6, chasing away the bishop, bishop to h4, and now queen to b6, putting pressure on the b2 pawn, and pawn to a3. So all been played before, nothing new here, inviting black to capture on b2, but of course everyone, including your uncle, knows that queen captures on b2 is a very well-known trap, and knight to a4 just wins the black queen. All of the squares are covered. There's no square for the black queen, and you will have to capture the rook on a1 or something, but you will blunder your queen. So bishop to e7, we have bishop back to f2, nicely attacking the black queen, and queen back to c7. Again, nothing new, all been played before. We have queen to f3, nicely developing the queen, pawn to e5, and knight to f5. We have bishop captures on f5, e captures, and now there is a game where knight b to d7 was played, but Nodirbek goes pawn to d5, grabs the center, and it is not as of move 13 that we have a completely new game. Okay, knight captures on d5. You could also castle queenside. Might not be a terrible idea, but we have knight captures on d5, attacking the black queen. Queen a5 check, now with a double attack on the knight, and knight back to c3. Pawn to e4, chasing away Alireza's queen, and queen to h3. And now pawn to h5, stopping any... well, it's hard to say what he's stopping. Probably g4, and also maybe creating an outpost for the knight on g4 to put pressure on the bishop, and maybe even to advance the pawn to e3. We have bishop to e2, knight b to d7, and both players castle queenside. Castle queenside, castle queenside. Castle and kingside would be a lot safer for Nodirbek, but, you know, Nodirbek not really the one to play it safe. Rook to d4, getting the rook into the attack, and bishop to c5, attacking the rook, and the bishop is on f2, so you have to be careful here, but it is all planned out. Rook to c4 nicely pins the bishop to the king on c8, king to b8, and now bishop captures on c5. Knight captures, and queen to e3, putting pressure on the knight here. Knight c to d7, and now knight captures on e4. We have rook h to e8, and bishop to f3 seems like a reasonable move to play here. You defend the knight, you put the bishop on this beautiful diagonal, but Alireza actually plays queen to c3. He just offers a queen trade, so Nodirbek obliges, queen captures on c3, knight captures, and now knight to b6. Attacks the rook, rook to c5, and knight b back to d7. So how can you escape? Well, you can repeat with rook to c4, or you can go rook to a5, and this is where things get really interesting. We have rook to c8 by Nodrbek, and now bishop to d3, adding a defender to the c2 pawn. Also f5 is nicely defended. Knight to c5, and now bishop to c4. We have rook to e7 and rook to d1, and now pawn to b6. And there is no square for this rook to move. You could capture on c5. Alireza decides to capture on a6. He's going to give up the exchange this way. Knight captures with bishop captures with an attack on the rook, rook to c5. And now rook to d8 with check. King to c7, rook to c8 with check, king to d6, and now knight to b5 with check. And it seems like there's really nothing better than to capture on b5. Where is the king going? But the king is, well, very, very happy and very safe on d7. Rook captures on c5, b captures, and now bishop to b7. We have rook to e2, grabbing hold of the second rank, also promoting the rook to a pig. Pawn to a4. Alireza starts advancing his past a pawn, and it's not going to be easy to stop it. We have knight to e8, and now comes bishop to f3, attacking the rook, rook to f2, and now pawn to a5. So where is Nodrbek's counterplay? We have knight to c7, guarding the a6 square, knight to c3, and now pawn to h4. We have knight to e4, going after the c5 pawn, and rook to f1 check, king to d2, and pawn to h3, and this is where things get really interesting. Knight captures on c5 check, king to e7, and now the question is, what do you play here? You have the passed a pawn, but also the h3 pawn might be a problem for white, so feel free to pause the video and try to find the best move for Alireza here while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on always thinking about moving the knight backwards. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is knight back to d3. The point is really just stopping rook to f2 check. That's the idea, because blacks, let's say you play something like a6, g captures on f2, h captures on g2, bishop captures on g2, rook f2 check, picks up the bishop, and you no longer have a means of winning this game. Let's say rook captures b4, hoping for, you know, some c4 b5 action, but king d6, and now you can no longer advance the b pawn, and you cannot really do anything with the a pawn, as the knight covers pretty much everything. So if anything, black will be one playing for the win here. So the idea is either knight d3 or just king to e3, stopping the rook from coming to f2. Alireza played knight to d3, and now Nodrbek has to try whatever he can not to lose this game. King f6, king to e3, h captures with bishop captures, and the rook to a1, putting the rook behind the passed pawn, but pawn to b4, defending. Rook a2, we have king to d2, and king captures on f5. We have king to c3, pawn to g5. This ensures the creation of the passed pawn. F captures with king captures, and now bishop to b7, preparing pawn to a6 once the a6 square is sufficiently defended. King to f6 and king to b3. Attacks the rook, rook a1, king to b2, rook to g1, and now pawn to a6. This is how you win the a6 square, and it was in this position on move 55 that Nodrbek Abdusattor resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. There's no way for the rook to help out. You can play something like rook to b8, but I mean, you have too much material. You can just play c4 once the pawn reaches b5. That's pretty much it. You cannot go to a8. You cannot defend a8. I mean, this the three connected pass pawns are just too much for Nodrbek to handle. So it was a pretty crazy game, but Alireza neutralized it fairly quickly and won a very nice end game. And yeah, I mean, these are the standings. So you can see that. Sorry about that. In the rapid section, Nepo, Alireza, and MBL shared first place with 11 points, but in Blitz, Alireza took down everyone. So he won with 12 ahead of Wesley, so with 11, and Hikaru Nakamura with 10.5. Yeah, which was pretty crazy considering Hikaru threw that game against Alireza where he was winning. But it would not matter in the long run, because overall Alireza wins with 23 points ahead of second place Wesley So that had 20 points, Hikaru with 19.5, then Levon, Maxim Vashelagraf, Fabiano Caruana, Yanni Pomnishi, Norbek Abdusator, Linier Dominguez, Perez, and Pregnananda in last place. Hard to see Prague in last place, but I mean, it's a super tournament, so whoever is last, you will always say, how is he last? Well, someone has to be last. That's how super tournaments work. So yeah, that's the game. Or rather, those were the games. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I think I have a photo of Alireza and Rex. Maybe. No, I don't. I thought I had it. I don't have it. But yeah. No, I do have it. Sorry. Yeah. Here's the one I was talking about. So Rex handing the trophy to Alireza, also inviting him basically to the United States if he wants to join their club. Stop being a Frenchman, maybe become a player for the United States, as they have done so many times. But it is hard to say. I think Alireza likes it in France. So yeah. That's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank Brendan Matthew, Duitran, Michael Bowers, Carmen Poliforonio, and Robert Stadelman for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching. I will see you soon. Continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day. And like I said, do use that hashtag suggestion if you have any nice games that happened over the past few days. See you soon.